Gosh, trans people in sports, it should be such a non-issue. Like, we exist, we just want to have fun.
My name is Nicholas Sperling, my pronouns are she, her, and this is a video I'm putting together about trans people in sports. I'm going to talk to both trans and non-binary people as well as the cis people who play with trans and non-binary people, and we're going to get to the bottom of whether you should be worried about trans people competing in sports. Stay tuned.
Super
I'm the captain, the manager, the stand-in coach on documents. Is that covering everything? It's covering too much.
I play with a gendered league for the West Side Wolves, and I play a queer league with Rainbow Refugees.
I'm currently playing on one team in this league, and I play on one team during the fall, and sometimes I play on 1, 2, or even 3 teams in the spring.
I play for QBS OFK Metro Women's Soccer League, and then another Metro Women's Soccer League. So I think I'm on 4 different teams at the moment.
I play soccer and rugby, both in an inclusive team, and soccer specifically in an inclusive league.
I play sports on a women's league team as a trans woman. I also play in a number of queer leagues.
This league right here during the summer is a queer league, whereas the fall and spring ones are gendered leagues. I play in the women's league.
All of my teams have majority queer people on them. So Queer Band Soccer and Out for Kick Soccer are both queer leagues, so those are queer teams. And the Metro Women's Soccer League, we have a lot of AFAB and trans women on our teams. I would get further that, but I will end up on the field, which for the record, I'm not opposed to. Rainbow Strikers are, I think, now an entirely queer team. We play in the MWSL in Vancouver, which is the Metro Women's Soccer League. We're a women's only team. I call us a queer team because most of the players on the Rainbow Strikers play in QVS. Players on the other teams are in the MWSL are not all queer. I don't know what their lives are like. It is women's soccer, so
The only team I play on that plays in a gendered league is the Rainbow Strikers team. I can tell you as a trans person who plays soccer that I definitely feel somewhat uncomfortable in change rooms, not because anyone's ever given me a hard time for it, but just because you never know if someone will.
If you find yourself in the change room with a trans or non-binary person, does that make you feel uncomfortable?
No. I don't feel uncomfortable being in a change room with trans or non-binary people. It's sports. Whatever.
It's important for trans people and non-binary people to be included in sports because normally we're not included. And a lot of the language, especially for non-binary folks, tends to be very gendered.
It's important to be included in sports because the discussion is always where they don't belong, and it's understanding that there is a place that we do need to belong in to pursue activity that everybody wants to partake in.
At the end of the day, movement is mental health, and mental health is how we stay happy and emotionally sound, and we find our community. And I think that it's important for every person, regardless of gender, and especially because of gender, to have community and access to moving your body in a space where other people want you to be.
Because access to sport is intrinsic to a high quality of life, I really believe that everyone should have access to sports, and that includes trans people. And I really welcome everyone to reflect on how they can make their team, their sport, their workplace, or their family space more inclusive of everyone.
When it comes to trans people in sports, it's just about wanting to play sports. I mean, we're not getting involved in sports for any reason other than because we enjoy it, just as a cis person would get involved in sports for the same reasons. I think there's a lot of fear-mongering that happens. There's a lot of talk about potential concerns at very high levels of sports. You obviously want to make sure that when you're playing high-level sports, there is some control, there's some fairness, and at the same time, when you're playing soccer out here with a bunch of recreational people, it really doesn't matter. Just let us go out and have fun and play.
It's like the feeling of coming home. When you get onto your queer team and they're using the right pronouns for you, you just feel like that's a good place to be in. Everyone's positive, everyone's encouraging each other. You don't have to worry about being misgendered, whereas a lot of gendered teams, especially outside of the Vancouver area, tend to use very gendered language like boys or ladies, and it just gets really frustrating. There's like a dissonance.
My teammates have been all very welcoming, and I've had just good experiences, especially being trans in any league that I play with.
It's important to have queer inclusive places to play soccer because that's where my joy is found. And it's so interesting to me because trans women and trans masculine individuals are the trailblazers for people who are non-binary but are cisgender passing or straight passing. And they hold so much space for us and to be our true selves that the least we can do is to be allies and hold space for them and include them in our sports. Diversity does nothing but enrich each sport and challenges each sport. And I've coached trans women, I've coached trans masculine individuals, I've coached cisgender individuals, and it's literally just all the same. People who want to work hard, play hard, and score some goals. Trans and non-binary people are included in every other aspect of my life. I don't see why they shouldn't be included in the sports I play. I don't know, a lot of the, chatter on the internet from people who aren't involved in, the sports I'm involved with at all is them commenting on this and saying, well, let them make their own places for their sports teams. So I'm just taking out the middleman and doing that. I'm trying to make the teams and leagues that I play on a better reflection of the world that we live on, and I'm trying to do what I can to have a positive impact in a space where the loudest voices are frequently negative.
I have found that my teammates are very inclusive and respectful of me, my pronouns, and other people and other trans and non-binary people on my teams.
Overall, I've found my teammates to be incredibly accepting. I think there's a certain level of my own discomfort around gendered sports. You never know if there's going to be an issue, but so far it's been a total non-issue. And part of that is because I play it in a lot of queer league. I probably wouldn't have had the confidence to get back into playing soccer if it hadn't been for these queer leagues introducing me to queer people who play gendered sports, getting an introduction back into gendered soccer that way.
I have found my teams to be very accepting of myself and others, and I think it's because we all just want to enjoy each other and we all just want to score some goals and hang out. I think sometimes the Metro Women's Soccer League still has a far way to go in terms of using gender inclusive language, but I think the actual team that we play on, we've had a lot of dialogue around it and we really hold each other accountable. It does nothing but enrich our game and our skill and our community in that way.
With my experiences, I don't believe that any ref or official has ever treated me any differently. They see me as a competitor on the field and no different.
I would say within the QVS, so the queer van soccer community and the OFK community, I think that because they are inherently queer leagues, everyone is treated the same. I find in Metro Women's Soccer League, there's definitely a certain level of having refs approach you with either annoyance or intrigue. The refs that approach you with intrigue are great because they're willing to learn. And the refs and the coaches that we've played against who use very gender binary language with us has been challenging, I think, for our queer teams at times.
So the league and refs tend to be a bit of a mixed bag, depending on what league you're playing in. Occasionally, you'll get some cisgender man who says, okay, ladies, or hey, ladies, or something like that. You get other teams who say, she's coming and mark her, and that can be a little bit demeaning. It's even worse having played in gendered leagues outside of Vancouver because they tend to use a lot more binary language. I've played in co-ed tournaments and co-ed leagues before, and you have to have a certain number of men and women on each side. And when you're non-binary, it just doesn't work. It feels like a disconnect. Having to play a certain gender when you don't relate to that gender at all, that's what makes it really difficult is the co-ed leagues. And that can make it not very an inclusive place for someone like me.
I wouldn't say that the organizers of various leagues treat me differently because I'm trans. However, I have noticed that from referees from time to time. I don't know if it's because of the fact that I'm trans, but there's definitely a level of you're a larger player. So if I go in for a 50-50 ball and the other person happens to fall over, I'll often get the call against me, whether it was deserved or not. There's also instances where I've been injured, been somewhat vocal in going for the ball because I'm grunting out of pain or something along those lines. And I've had refs consider that to be an intimidation tactic and call me on it before. And I think it was just a matter of the fact that I had a deeper voice because I'm certainly not the only player who grunts because of an injury that they have.
Well, I never have problems with league organizers or refs. trying to make efforts to listen to my trans and non-binary players if they ever have anything that comes up. Last season, a couple of our non-binary players made a comment that it can get really distracting when the refs and other teams are using she, her pronouns everywhere and talking about that girl. And what we ended up doing was reaching out to the league and saying, hey, the MWSL is saying that they want to be an inclusive league and a safe space. How can we go about reaching out to the refs and talking about not using gendered language with them so they're not coming up to our team at the beginning of the game and saying, hey, ladies? It's just gross. And it worked.
I think what we can do to make sure that trans and non-binary people feel more accepted in sports is to accept them, right? That seems obvious, but a lot of times we feel like we're not fully accepted because leagues don't go out of their way, teams don't go out of their way to make sure that we know that we're going to be in a safe space on that team, that we're not going to be judged, that we're not going to have people making an issue out of our identities. So that's a really big component of it. And then also doing some freaking research. Do some research. Look at those statistics. There are statistics out there about trans people in sports, and they don't favor the idea that trans people are somehow harming gendered sports. Do your own research, and you'll see that this is not the issue the media seems to think it is, or that right-wing folks seem to think it is.
What could be done to improve trans and non-binary people in soccer is include them earlier on. Create a welcoming environment from being a kid playing soccer up until the end of their soccer career.
Respect people's pronouns. None of this ladies or boys or sirs. Use things like folks and hey everyone or stuff that isn't gendered. I have been in a tournament where I initially had the option to play for either men or women, which was pretty handy, but it ended up being that the women were short, so I had to fill in with the women. But that's a difficult one with the co-ed leagues, I think.
Especially if you're trans femme or trans masculine, you're going to walk into a lot of boundaries where it comes to the binary of women play the sport like this or men play it at this level. We're seeing it right now in the FIFA World Cup where the level is just rising so much in the Women's World Cup that I just want everyone to be approached with the same demands and the same skill level and the same skill challenges, because skill has no gender. It just is how hard the coaches are going to push you and how much they're going to include you in the conversation and in challenging you in those things. I'm not saying that, I'm the queen of the answers, but when I was talking with the league about, reached out to the league last year, it was so easy to get a response saying, yes, we can reach out to the refs and bring that to their attention. And then I actually ended up speaking to the head referee of the league, and they were telling me, yeah, I send an email to the refs of your games every week and remind them just to not use gendered language when talking to your team and greeting your team. And it was so easy. And so it's sometimes those steps that you don't even think of that can be so incredibly easy to take, and just making sure that you hold yourself accountable to take them.
I've been playing in an inclusive team because I really believe that everyone should feel welcome into sports. And what I found in an inclusive league or in an inclusive team is a lot of respect, a lot of support, and a lot of kindness, whether you're just starting the sport or you come from another culture or you are just different. Everyone is here to listen to everyone's needs and support the people that need it when they need it.
I think the thing that I'd like to share the most is that there's nothing but joy when you're moving your body. There is nothing but joy in being able to be around your friends who are part of your queer community. There's nothing but joy to include your friends in these games. And I think the myth that a lot of people are pointing to, trans women starting to dominate sports and that sort of thing, they're always using the same whistle-blowing tactics on 2 or 3 individuals who are at the top of their game. Katie Ledecky is now getting attacked. She's cisgender and she's winning everything, and people are now saying that she's trans. I just want to say, give cis women the credit and allow trans women to play, because it's only going to elevate our sports. And there's trans masculine boxers in the UK who want to fight men, but the men won't fight them. I just say, buck up and play and see how good you are and challenge yourself, because if you think that sports comes down to gender, I think you're dead wrong.
I think it's important that people understand that it's okay for trans people to win sometimes. We make up a small percentage of the population, and you wouldn't expect us to win all the time. That would obviously be indicative of an unfair situation. However, that doesn't happen. Trans people aren't winning all the time, but you have to expect that we're going to win occasionally because you can't create an environment where it's impossible for one group of people to win, because that's not fair.
I'd like to share that, like, my experience in soccer, being trans and non-binary, I've learned from every player that I've played with, and I'm always getting my ass kicked no matter what gender, and I'm trying to kick ass on the field as well. Like, it's just a fun game. We're all here to play.
Just let us run around and kick a ball, you know?
For more about trans people in sports, check out the Trans in Rugby episode of a social justice podcast.
Yeah, amazing. Keep going, it's all good. No, we're not. We're just, this is all pretending.
Oh, heads up! That's okay. I really hope that you got the footage of that guy doing wind sprints behind me earlier, because that's going to be a good comedy bit. Other teams are